So polity is not just about books, it's about all about understanding how our country runs. From president to panchayat, from laws to your rights. Let's break it all down simply, right? So from today, especially today, I will try to cover complete or entire polity, that is polity, Indian polity and constitution. So we will start uh, everything, or we can say we will cover all the things which is high yielding, or you can say which is very very important for your exam perspective. And definitely all maximum questions from Lakshmikant and some relevant sources it comes from, right? So I will recollect all those things and deliver to you. Okay, so let us start Indian polity and constitution. So firstly you have to understand what is constitution. So constitution is a set of rules, or you can say is a foundational law of country which orders the which ordains the fundamental principle on which the government or governance of the country is based, right? So with the exceptions of the United Kingdom, almost all democratic country opposes a written constitution. So this is important, right? Next we will understand how evolution of Indian constitution evolved, right? Or we can say how Indian constitution evolved, right? So the first constitution of India framed and given to the themselves by the people of India, right? And was adopted by the Constituent Assembly on 26th November 1949, and it came into full operation with effect from 26th January 1950. 26th January 1950, right? Jan 1950, right? So the constitution as originally adopted had 22 parts, 22 parts, right? And 395 395 articles, right? And 8 schedule, right? So these are the important things you have to remember, right? So next I would like to cover administrative and legislative reforms before 1857. So 18 before 1857, how administrative and legislative reforms occur. Okay, so first thing, there is a regulating act of 1773. So according to this act, the governance of East India Company was put under British Parliament control, right? And the governor of Bengal was nominated as Governor General for all the three presidents of Calcutta. So Bombay, Kolkata, Bombay, that is Mumbai right now, and Madras, that is Chennai right now. No, Warren Hastings was the first such Governor General. So Supreme Court was established in Calcutta, no, Kolkata, right? So second thing was Pitt's India Act of 1784. Pitt's India Act of 1784. So it was enacted to the improve up to the upon the provisions of regulating Act of 1773, right? There was a six member board of controller was set up, and that was set up that headed by the Ministry of British government. So all the political responsibility were given to this board, right? That is Pitt's India Act of 1784. Okay, so this was the important. Now move to Charter Act of 1793. So under this act, it is provided for the payment of salary of the member of the board of controller from Indian revenue, right? And you know chart next act was the Charter Act of 1813. Charter Act of 1830. So under this, trade monopoly of East India Company came to an end. So Charter Act of 18, that is the East India Company monopoly, right, especially trade monopoly is ended, right, and Christian missionaries were allowed to spread their religion in India. So this is important. So this is happened under Charter Act of 1813, right. Now next, Charter Act of 1833. So under this act, the Governor General and his councils were given a vast power, right? And the council got full power regarding revenue and a single budget for the boundary for the country, and was prepared by the Governor General, right? So for the first time, the Governor General, the Governor General government was known as the Government of India, right? So under 1833 Act, so this is happened, right? And the government of India and his council has the as the Indian council, right. So the Governor General of Bengal was to be the Governor General of India, right. So all power, Governor General of India, and all power administrative and financial were handed over to the Governor General in council, right. So now next thing I would like to emphasize on a law commission. So under Lord Macaulay was constituted for constitution of law. So this was important, right. Now let's move another act, that is 1853, that is Charter Act of 1853. So under this act we will study how a separate governor of Bengal was to be appointed, right. And recruitment of the company's employees was to be done through the competitive exam, right. So the selection process was that competition, right. So through competition employee to be selected, right. So first a British Parliament was empowered to put the company's governance of India to end at suitable time, and it introduced for the first time local representation in Indian and central legislate councils, right. So this is important, right. So I think it is clear to you. Now next, administrative and legislative reforms after 1857. So this is crucial for everyone, right. So under this Government of India Act 1858, Government of India Act 1858, right. So British Crown decided to assume sovereignty over India from the East India Company in an apparent consequences of the revolt of 1857. So it provided for the absolute British imperial control over India without any popular participation in the administration of the country. Now the country was divided into province headed by a governor or lieutenant governor aided by his executive council. So all the authority for the governance of India was vested in the Governor General in council, who was responsible to the Secretary of State, and the Secretary of State was ultimately responsible to the British Parliament, right. So the power was transferred from company to the British Crown, and court of director and the board of control were abolished, right. So the post of Secretary of State was established. Secretary of State was member of British cabinet and answerable to British Parliament. So this is important. Now the Governor General was made the Viceroy of India, VOI, Viceroy of India, right. So Indian Council Act 18 Indian Council Act, that is 1861. So under this act, the Secretary of State was responsible to the British Parliament and governed India through the governor general assisted by the executive council, right? And it decentralized the legislative power of the governor general council and vested them in the government of Bombay, now Mumbai and Madras, right? So now in Chennai, and the viceroy could now also nominate some Indians as non-official member in his council. So it made a beginning of representative institution by association Indians with the lawmaking process. Now the executive council was now to be called the central legislative council. That is important, right? So portfolio system. So what do you mean by portfolio system? PS, portfolio system. So under this portfolio system, uh, something introduced by that is introduced by Lord Canning, Lord Lord Canning in 1859, right? So and it was given recognition, right? And so the viceroy was given the power to issue ordinance. Viceroy, okay, viceroy was given the power to issue the ordinance, right? Ordinance. So it is important, right? Now Indian Council Act 1892, Indian Council Act 1892, 1892. So under this act, the non-official member of Indian Legislative Council were to be nominated by the Bengal Chamber of Commerce and the provincial legislative councils, while the non-official member of the provincial councils were to be nominated by the certain local bodies, right? And such as university, district board, municipality, jamindar, etc., right? And it brought an element of representation for the first time by allowing discussion of budget. So uh, there is morally minto reforms, and the Indian Council Act 1909, Indian Council Act 1909. So the size of provincial legislative council was enlarged by including elected non-official member, so that the official majority was gone, right? An element of election was also introduced in the legislative council at the center, but here the official majority was maintained. Official majority was maintained. And now the member of legislative council could ask supplementary question, discuss bills, right? And move resolution on financial statement and so on, right? So the Muslim were given separate electorates. Muslim were given separate electorates, right? And there were reservation of seats on religious grounds. So next, Satyendra Prasad Sinha became the first Indian join the Viceroy Executive Council. Satyendra Prasad Sinha were given Indian to join the Viceroy Executive Council. Now let's move to Government of India Act 1915, right? So under this act, it was passed to consolidate the provisions of the preceding Government of India Act, right? So the Montague Chelmsford reforms and the Government of India Act 1919 it occurred, right? So in under this act, responsible government in province was to be introduced without impairing the the responsibility of the governor, right? And that was through the governor general. So for the administration of the province by resorting to device known as the diarchy, or you can say dual government, right? And the subject of administration were to be divided into two category, that is central and provincial, right? So the provincial subjects were subdivided into transferred and reserve subjects. So the transfer subjects were to be administered by the governor with the aid of minister responsible to the legislative council, right? So reserve subjects were to be administered by the governor and his executive council. Now the provincial budget was separated from the central budget, and the the provincial legislature was empowered to present its own budget and levy its own taxes relating to the provincial source of revenue. Now, central legislature retained power to legislate for the whole country on any subject, right? So the control of governor general over provincial legislation was retained by providing that the provincial bill, even though assented to the governor, would become law only, right? And when assented to all to that also by the governor general, right? So Indian legislature was made more representative and for the first time bicameral. So the upper house was named the council of state and the lower house was named the legislative assembly, right? So upper house, that is council of state, and the lower house, that is legislative assembly, and the governor general overriding power in respect of central legislations were retained as power as follows, right? So the central legislative retained the power, that is his prior sanctions was required to introduce bill relating to the certain matters, okay, and he had the power to veto or reserve for the consideration of the crown any bill passed by the legislative Indian legislature, and he had converse power of certifying bill or any grant refused by the legislature, right? And last not the least, but he could make ordinance in case of emergency. Now come to the Simon Commission. So Simon Commission, right? Simon Commission. So under this commission headed by Sir John Simon, constituted in 1927, and to inquire into the working of the Act of 1919, placed its report in 1930, right? So this is important. And now next to move to Government of India Act 1935, Government of India Act 1935, right? So under this act, the act 1935 prescribed a federation taking the province and the Indian state native states as units. The act divided legislative power between the center and provinces. Now the executive authority of province was also exercised by a governor on behalf of the crown and not as the subordinate of the governor general, right? So in certain matters the governor was required to act in his discretion without ministerial advice, and under the control and direction of the governor general, and through him of the secretary of state. The executive authority of the center was vested in the governor general on behalf of the crown. So in 6 provinces the legislature was bicameral apart from the governor general's power of veto. Now a bill passed by the central legislature was also subject to veto by the crown, right? So the governor general had independent powers of the legislation concurrently with those of the legislature without the governor general's previous sanctions. So a threefold division in the Act of 1935, there was a federal list over which the federal legislature had exclusive power of legislation. There was a provincial list of matters over which the provincial legislature had exclusive jurisdiction. There was a concurrent list also over which both the federal and provincial legislature had competence, right? So you know, dominion dominion status, uh, dominion status which was provided by the Simon Commission in 1929 and was not conferred by the Government of India Act 1935. Now diarchy was abolished in the province, but it was introduced at the central level, right? And it provided for the establishment of all India Federation consisting of province and princely states as an unit, but the federation did not come into effect. So it introduced bicameralism in 6 out of 11 provinces. The federal legislature had chambers, the Council of States and the Federal Assembly. The Council of State was to be permanent body and with the one third of its member retiring every 2 years, right? And it further extended the principle of communal representation by providing separate electorates for depressed classes, women, and labor. And it provided for the establishment of Reserve Bank of India to control the currency and the credit of the country. And it provided for the establishment of Federal Public Service Commission and Joint Public Service Commission for the two or more provinces. Now, one thing, so crisp mission. So in March 1942, Sir Stafford Cripps, right, a member of the British cabinet, named with a draft declaration on the purpose on the proposal of the British government. The proposal, the Constitution of India was to be framed by an elected constituent assembly, okay, by the Indian people, right? So the constitution should give India dominion status. There should be one Indian union comprising all the provinces and Indian states. Now any province, or you can say Indian states, not accepting the constitution would be free to retain its constitutional position existing at the time, and with such non-exceeding province, the British government would enter into the separate constitutional arrangement. Okay, so this is important. Now next thing, that is cabinet mission plan. 1946. So under this plan, Lord Attlee in 1946, Lord Attlee sent a cabinet mission to India consisting of 3 cabinet ministers, namely those are Lord Pethick Lawrence, Sir Stafford Cripps, and Sir A.V. Alexander. So these are the cabinet ministers, okay, and you have to remember it, right? So according to cabinet mission plan, there was to be a union of India comprising both British India and the state, and having jurisdictions over the subject of foreign affairs, defense, and communication, and all residuary powers were to be vested in province and states. So the union was to have an executive and legislature consisting of representatives of province and the states, right? So the province could form groups with executive and legislative, and each could be competent to determine the provincial subjects, right? And India was divided into 3 groups of provinces: Group A, Group B, and Group C. So the plan provided the Union Constitution was to be framed by the Constituent Assembly, and the member of which were to be elected on a communal basis. On communal basis, right? Communal basis. So you know uh, by the province legislative assembly and the representative of states joining the union. And now next move to the Mountbatten plan. So under this Mountbatten plan, so the plan for transfer of power to the Indians and partition of the country was laid down in the Mountbatten plan. So it was given a formal shape by a statement made by the British government on 3rd June 1947. 3rd June 1947. Right, 3rd June 1947. So now next, the Indian Independence Act 1947. Indian Independence Act IIA 1947. Right, 1947. So of the British Parliament. So from 15th August 1914, 15th August 1947, 1947. So India ceased to be a dependency, and the suzerainty of the British Crown over the Indian states, and the treaty relation with the tribal areas lapsed from the date. Right. So the office of the Secretary of State for India was abolished. Now central legislature of Indian composed of Legislative Assembly and the Council of State ceased to exist on India, August 14, 1947. Right. Now the Constituent Assembly itself was to functions also as the central legislature with the complete sovereignty. The interim government of India formed on September 2, 1946 from the newly elected Constituent Assembly of India had the task of assisting the transfer of power from British rule to independent India. Right. So this is important. Right. Now let's move to uh, Constituent Assembly and making of the Constitution. So this is important. So Constituent Assembly and making of the Constitution, if you talk, definitely the cabinet mission envisaged the establishment of the Constituent Assembly to frame constitution for the country. And member of the Constituent Assembly were elected by the provincial legislative assembly. After partition of India, number of member of the Constituent Assembly came to 299. Right, came to 299. Right. And of whom 284. So 284 were actually present on 26 November 1946. 26 November 1946. 1946. So 284 were present. Right. So this is important to you. Okay. Now and they signed on finally approved Constitution of India. So the assembly, which had been elected for the undivided India and held its first meeting on 9 1946, 9 that is December 1946. 1946, this was the first meeting. Okay. And that is important. Right. And held its first meeting on and resemble on August 14, 1947 as the sovereign and Constituent Assembly for the Dominion of India. So it took 2 years, 11 months, 2 year, 11 month and 18 days. Right, 18 days. So this was important. Right, 18 days. Is it clear? Is it clear? So this is important. And after this Indian Constitution become final. Right. So now next thing is objective resolution. What do you mean by objective resolution? So according to objective resolution, and it moved in the first session of the Constituent Assembly by 13 December 1946, and Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, okay, by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. So the objectives were embodied in the resolution. So the assembly appointed the drafting committee with Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was the chairman on August 29, 1947. 29 August 1947. That is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was the chairman drafting committee, right? So the member of the drafting committee were N. Gopal Swami Iyengar, Alladi Krishna Swami, Aya K. M. Munshi, Muhammad Sadullah B. L. Mittar, later replaced by N. Madhava Rao, and Dr. D. P. Khaitan, replaced on death by T. T. Krishnamachari, right? The third and final reading of the draft was completed on November 26, 1947. 1949. Okay, 26 November 1949. So that this was the third reading completed. Right? And the signature of the President of Assembly was appended to it, and the Constitution was declared as passed. Right? So this is important, right? So the provisions relating to citizenship, elections, and provincial parliament etc. were implemented with immediate effect, that is from 26 November 1949. The rest of the provisions of the Constitution came into force on 26 January 1950. So this is the date. After that, the Constitution of came into force. Constitution came into force, right? And this date is referred to as the Constitution as the date of commencement, right? So 26th January 1950 is the commencement date of the Constitution. So Dr. Sachidanand Sinha was the first president of Constituent Assembly. Dr. Sachidanand Sinha was the first president declared, right, of the Constituent Assembly, and Dr. Rajendra Prasad was elected the president of the Assembly, and B.N. Rao was appointed as the constitutional advisor of the Assembly. Now, on November 26, 1949, the Constitution was declared as the passed. 26 November 1949. So you have to remember this date, right? So the provisions relating to the citizenship, elections, and provisional parliament etc. were implemented with immediate effect, that is from the November 26, 1949, and the rest of the provisions came into force on January 26, 1950. Now, drafting committee. So drafting committee, under this the committee assembly appointed as a drafting committee on 26th November 1947, right? So Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who was the chairman of the drafting committee, submitted a drafting constitution of India to the president of the assembly on 21 Feb 1948. Is it clear? 1948. So enactment of the constitution. So on November 26, 1949, constitution was adopted containing preamble and 395 articles and 18 parts and 8 schedules. The constitution in its current forms consists of preamble, 26 parts, 448 articles and 12 schedules, right? So this is important for you. Okay, now enforcement of the constitution. So definitely the constitution came into force on 26 Jan 1950, and it was specifically chosen as the date of commencement of the constitution because on this day in 1930 the Purna Swaraj Day was celebrated. 1930, and the Purna Swaraj Day was celebrated and a resolution was passed in Lahore session 19 in 1929 of Indian National Congress, right? So something which is important sometime, and especially factual type questions in state PCS examination, and even in UPSC examination it might be asked by the help of a statement, or you can say by the help of matching type, or you can say sequential order and all. Okay, so this is important, and committee name and headed by. So first thing is Union Power Committee, and it is headed by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, and Union Constitution Committee Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Provincial Constitution Committee Sardar Patel, and Drafting Committee Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and Advisory Committee on Fundamental Rights of Minority and Tribal Excluded Area Sardar Patel, and Rules of Procedure Committee Dr. Rajendra Prasad, and State Committee Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Okay, and Steering Committee Dr. Rajendra Prasad. So these facts are important sometime. Okay, so now salient features of the constitutions. So this is lengthiest written constitution, and the the Indian constitution is the lengthiest in the world. Originally the constitution had 395 articles and 8 schedules. Now blend of rigidity and flexibility. So the procedure of amendment of the Indian constitution is partly flexible and partly rigid. Some provisions can be amended easily, and some provisions can only be amended by the passes in both Union Parliament and half of the state legislature. So this is important, and parliamentary government. So India has a parliamentary system of government both in center and at the state. So the president is headed of the Union of India, and the governor are heads of the states, but they act of the advice of the council of ministers. So they have nominal power. Okay, and federal system with unitary features. So constitution contains federal features of government like division of power, written constitution, independent judiciary, and bicameralism, um, but large number of unitary features like a strong center, single citizenship, and flexibility of constitution, and integrated judiciary, emergence provisions, etc. Okay, so these are the important things. Now let's move to independent judiciary. So judiciary is independent. Judiciary is independent, right? Judiciary is independent. So behind this there is a single integrated and independent judiciary in India, and the Supreme Court is the highest court of the land. Both Supreme Court and High Courts have been given extensive power to interpret the constitution and the law under various provisions of the Constitution of India, right? So now let's move to next thing, that is secular state. The Indian Constitution stands for a secular state, that is all religion in our country have the same rights and supports from the state, and it does not uphold any particular religion as the official religion of the Indian state, right? So emergency provisions. So Indian Constitution has a special provisions to meet any extraordinary situation or emergency. So during the emergency the central government becomes powerful, and the state came under total control of it. Okay, now during emergency our federal system becomes unitary without any amendment of the constitution. So this is important, and different sorts of Indian Constitution. Government of India Act 1935. So this act formed the basis, or you can say blueprint, of the Constitution of India, with features of federal system, office of governor, emergency power, etc. So Constitution of Britain the law making procedures, rule of law, single citizens, bicameral parliamentary, and system office of CAG. So all are constitution of Britain. So constitution of USA, so independence of judiciary review, fundamental rights, removal of Supreme Court and High Court, preamble and function of president and vice presidents, all coined from Constitution of USA. Now Constitution of Canada. So there are many things which coined from the Constitution of Canada, like federation with a strong center to provide residuary power to the center and Supreme Court's advisory jurisdiction. And now Constitution of Ireland. So directive principle of state policy, method of presidential elections, and the nomination of the member to Raj Sabha by the president, right? So Weimar Constitution of Germany, Weimar Constitution of Germany. So under these provisions concerning the suspension of fundamental rights during emergency, right? So Australian Constitution, that is concurrent list provisions regarding trade, commerce and industry, language and of the preamble, right? So these are from Australian Constitution, right? Now South African Constitution. So procedure of constitutional amendment, that is South African Constitution. Now Constitution of France. So Republic of Liberty, Equality and Fraternity. So Constitution of Australia, idea of the concurrent list. Constitution of South Africa, that is amendment with 2/3 of the majority in parliament. Now Constitution from former USSR, that is fundamental duty, right? So these are the important thing, and sometimes they directly or indirectly comes from these areas. So these areas are important, right? So okay, so I will discuss some important articles of the Constitution. Okay, so part 1, that is article 1 to 4, and subject is the union and its territory, right? Part 2, in second part, okay, second part you can see here, this is citizenship, and part 3rd, in part 3rd, that is fundamental rights, okay. So especially article 12 and 12 to 35, okay. So article 12, that is definition, fundamental rights and all, and 13, article 13, law consistent with or derogation of the fundamental rights and right to equality, right? Now right to equality. So article 14, right to equality, article 14, equality before law, and article 15, provision of discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex or place of birth. Now article 16, that is equality of opportunity in matters of public employment, and article 17, abolition of untouchability, and article 18, that is abolition of titles, right to freedom. Now move to right to freedom. So under this article 19, that is protection of certain rights regarding freedom of speech, and article 20, protection in respect of conviction of offences, and article 21, that is protection of life, personal liberty, and article 21A, that is clause A, article 21 clause A, right to education, and article 22, that is protection against arrest and detention in certain cases, right? So right against exploitation. So article 23, that is prohibition of traffic in human beings and forced labor. Now article 24, provision of employment of children in factory etc. Now right to freedom of religion. So freedom of article 25, freedom of conscience and free profession practice, and propagation of religion, right, of religions. So article 26, freedom to manage religion affairs, right. And article 27, article 27, so article 27, freedom as to payment of tax for promotion of any particular religion. Now article 28, freedom as to attendance at religious instructions or religious worship in certain educational institutions. So these are the important. And now cultural and educational rights, cultural and educational rights, right, cultural and educational rights. So under constitutional, this article 29, protection of interest of minority, and article 30, that is right of minority to establish and administer educational institutions. So these are the important. And now removal of right to property, article 19 clause 1 f and 31. So these are the important thing. And that was the 44th amendment of Indian Constitution, in which right to property from part 3rd removed, right. And fundamental rights, that was the fundamental right, but by deleting article 19 clause 1 clause f and 31 by amendment, and by inserting in part 13, 12, the chapter 1 for means for right to property, article 300a. Okay, so this is important, right. Now next move to article 32, that is also called remedy for the enforcement of right confirmed by this part. Now article 33, power of parliament to modify the right confirmed by this part in their application to force etc, right. So article 34, restriction on right confirmed by this part while martial law is enforced in any area. And 35, article 35, legislation to give effect to the provisions of this part, right. So let's move directive principle of state policy, that is DPSP, right, DPSP. So under this article 36 define it, and article 37, application of the principle contained in this part. And article 38, a state of secure a social order for the promotion of welfare of the people. And article 39, certain principle of policy to be followed by the state. And article 39 a, equal justice and free legal aid. So article 40, organization of village panchayats. And article 41, right to work, education and public assistance in certain cases. Article 42, provisions for just and human condition of work and maternity relief. So article 43, living wage etc of for workers, okay. And article 43 clause a, participation of workers in management of industry. Article 43b, that is a state shall endeavor to promote voluntary formation and autonomous functioning, democratic control and professional management of cooperative society. So these are the important thing. And provisions for early childhood care. And article 45, or you can say 44, that is uniform civil code for the citizens. And article 45, provisions for early childhood care and and education to children below the age of 6 years, right. Now promotion of article 46, that is promotion of educational and economic interest of scheduled caste, scheduled tribes and other weaker sections of the society. Article 47, So under Article 47, duty of a state to raise the level of nutrition and standards of living and improve public health, right? So Article 48, in this article, organization of agriculture and animal husbandry, and Article 48A, protection and improvement of environment and safeguarding of the forest and wildlife, right? Now Article 49, protection of monuments and places and objects of national importance. Now Article 50, that is separation of judiciary from executive, and Article 51, promotion of international peace and security. Now move to part 4, clause A. Okay, Article 51 A, fundamental duty. Okay, fundamental duty, and part 5, that is the union. And in this we will study the executive. Article 52, the President of India. Article 53, executive power of union, and Article 54, election of president, and 61, procedure for impeachment of the president, and 63, that is the vice president of India, and 64, the vice president to be ex officio chairman of the Council of State, and Article 65, the vice president to act as the president or to discharge his functions during casual vacancy in the office or during the absence of president. Now Article 66, election of vice president, and Article 72, power of president to grant pardons etc. and to suspend a remit or commute sentence in certain cases. Article 74, Council of Minister of Aid and Advice, President 74. So this is important. And Article 76, Attorney General for India, Attorney General AG for India. Okay, and Parliament. If we talk about Parliament, definitely the Article 79, Constitution of Parliament, and Article 80, composition of the Council of State, that is Raj Sabha, and Article 81, composition of the House of the People, Lok Sabha, and Article 83, duration of House of Parliament, and Article 84, qualification for the membership of Parliament, and 85, Article 85, session of Parliament, prorogation and dissolution, that is under Article 85, right? And Article 86, right of President to address and expend message to houses. Now at Article 87, a special address by the President, and Article 88, that is right of minority and Attorney General as the respect to House. Now Article 89, the Chairman and Deputy Chairman of the Council of State, and Article 93, the Speaker and Deputy Speaker of the House of the People. Now Article 98, Secretariat of Parliament, and Article 99, oath of affirmation by members. Now Article 105, that is power, privilege etc. of the House of Parliament and of the member and the committee thereof, right? And Article 108, that is joint sitting of both house in certain cases, and Article 109, a special procedure in respect of money bills, and Article 110, that is definition of money bills, and Article 111, assent of bills, and Article 112, annual financial statement, that is budget, but budget is not mentioned in the Constitution anywhere, right? So this is important. And Article 114, that is appropriation bills, and Article 115, supplementary, additional, or you can say excess grants, right? So these are the important articles. And now let's move Article 116, that is vote on accounts, votes of credit and exceptional grants, and Article 117, that is special provisions as to financial bills, and Article 119, regulation by law of procedure in Parliament in relation to financial business. Now Article 120, that is language to be used in the Parliament, and Article 122, courts not be inquired into proceedings of parliament, right? Now legislative power of the president. Okay, so article 123, power of president to promulgate ordinance during recesses of parliament. Now the union judiciary. So article 124, that is establishment and constitution of supreme court. Now article 126, appointment of acting chief justice, and article 127, appointment of ad hoc judge. So article 128, attendance of retired judge at sitting of the supreme court, and article 129, supreme court to be court of record. So article 131, that is judicial original jurisdiction of supreme court, and article 132, that is appellate jurisdiction of supreme court in appeals from high court in the certain cases, right? And now move to article 133, that is appellate jurisdiction of supreme court in appeals from high court in regards to civil matters, right? Now move to article 134, that is appellate jurisdiction of supreme court in regard to criminal matters, and article 136, special leaves to appeal by the supreme court. Now article 137, review of judgment, or you can say order by the supreme court. Now article 141, that is law declared by supreme court to be binding on all courts. Now article 143, that is power of president to consult supreme court. Now article 144, civil and judicial authority to act okay to act in aid of the supreme court, right? So this is all about 144 article, right? Civil and judicial authority to act in the aid of the supreme court. Now controller and auditor general of India, this is important, this is also important. Okay, so controller and auditor general of India. So under article 148, controller and auditor general of India, and article 149, duty and power of the controller and auditor general, right? Now let's move to part 6. So under part 6, the state and article 152 to 237, the government at the state level, and the executive, the state legislature, and the high courts and subordinate court. Now part 8, right? Part 8 of the constitution. So under part 8, so article 239 to 242, and the union under this, the union territory. So part 9, that is part 9, under part 9. So under part 9, 243 to 243O, the panchayats. Okay, so this is also important. Panchayat, that is 243 to 243O, clause O, right? So this is important. And next part A, that is article 9, part 9A. Okay, so part 9A, under this 243, okay, O to 243P, 243P to 243 ZG, right? So this is important, right? Now move to part 9B. So part 9B. So under this article, under this part, there is 243 ZH to 243 ZH to 243 ZT, right? ZT. So this is article you have to cover under this. So under this, the cooperative society are covered, right? Okay. Now part 10. So under part 10, the 244 or you can say 244 clause A means 244 to 244 a okay. So all the things which is related to this is the schedule and tribal area, schedule and you can say schedule and tribal area, right, tribal area. So this is part 10. Is it clear? Now let's move part 11. So this is also important, and this is related to article 245 to 263, and relation between, it indicates the relation between union and the states, union and states. So it is important. Okay, so next uh, part I think 11 is covered, and now move to part 12. So under part 12 article 244 to 264, 264 to 300, and under this finance, property, contracts and suits, all these things are covered, right. Now move to article 300, 300A, and article to right to property, right to property, which is removed already, and part 13, part 13. So under part 13, 301 to 307 article is covered, and in this we will see trade, commerce and industry within India. So this is all about part 13. And now part 14. So service under the union and the states, and article 309. So recruitment and conditions of the service of persons serving the union or the state. Okay, and article 311, that is dismissal, removal or reduction in the rank of the personnel employed in civil capacity under the union or a state. So article 12, article 312. So all India services are covered, article 312. And article 315, so public service commission for the union and the states, 315. So public service commission for the union and for the states, right. Now article 2320. So function of public service commission, what is the function of public service commission? It is under article 320, right. So move to article part 14A, part 14A. So article 323A clause 2 to 323B. So under this we will see tribunals. So part 15. So under part 15, article 24 324, that is election, and especially in this superintendence, direction and control of elections to be vested in an election commission, right. And article 325. So no persons to be ineligible for inclusions in or claim to be included in a special electoral roll on grounds of religion, race, caste or sex, right. Now article 326. So elections to the House of the People and to the Legislative Assembly of the states to be on the basis of adult suffrage. So this is covered under 326, right. Now article 329, and in this, bar to interference by courts in electoral matters. Now article part 16. So under part 16 we will see 330 to 342 special provisions for certain classes, right. And article 343 to 351 official language. So under this it is also important, right. Now move to part 17. So under this 352 to 360, and it under this you will see emergency provisions. Now part 19. So part 19 we will see miscellaneous, and let's move article 363, and bar to interference by courts in dispute arising out of the certain treaty agreement, etc. Okay. And article 365, effect of failure to comply with or give effect to direction given by the union, right. Now article part 20 and 368 article. So under this we will see amendment of the constitution. So this is most important. Article 360, amendment of the constitution, amendment of the constitution, right? So this is come under part 20. Now part 21, 369 to 392, temporary, transitional and special provisions, especially a special status of states, we will see. Now part 22, so article 393 to 395, that is short titles, part 22, right? So 22 part. So under this 393 to 395, short title, commencement, authoritative text in Hindi or and repeals, right? So these are all which are important. Okay, so these are the most important articles and part. So all the things which I already covered, okay, you must remember, and without remembering all these things, sometimes you may face problem in the examination, final examination especially, right? So these are the crucial for your exam perspective, UPSC as well as state PCS examination, right? So this is important. Now let's move to schedule of the Indian Constitution. So first schedule, 28 states and 8 union territory with territorial demarcations. Okay. Second schedule, part A, salary and emoluments of the president and governor of the states. Now part B omitted कर दिया गया, and part C, salary and emoluments of the speaker and deputy speaker, or you can say chairman or vice chairman of the Lok Sabha. Now Raj Sabha and the state legislature assembly or council. So part D, salary and emoluments of the judge of the Supreme Court and High Court, right? And part E, salary and emoluments of the Controller and Auditor General of India. Now third schedule, forms of oath and affirmation of the member of legislature, minister and judges. Now fourth schedule, allocation of seats to states and union territory in Rajya Sabha. Now fifth schedule, administration and control of the scheduled area and stage, that is scheduled area and stage, that is scheduled tribes. Sixth schedule, that is administration of tribal area of northeastern states. Now seventh schedule, distribution of power between union and the state government, that is union list, state list and concurrent list, right? And in eighth schedule, descriptions of 22 language and recognized by the constitution. Now ninth schedule, validation of certain acts and regulations. And 10th schedule, provisions as to disqualification on the group of defection, anti-defection law introduced by the 52nd Constitutional Amendment Act. Now 11th schedule, power, authority and responsibility of panchayats, 29 subjects over which the panchayats have jurisdictions referred to 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act. Now 12th schedule, that is power, authority and responsibility of municipality. Now 18 subjects over which the municipality have jurisdictions referred to 74th Amendment Act, right? So this is important. Now let's move to some important cases of the constitution. First thing is Golaknath case, 1967. So 1967. So in this the preamble was not a part of the constitution, it is said, okay, and Supreme Court held that the parliament had no power to amend any of the provisions of part 3rd, that is fundamental rights, and the Indira Gandhi government in 1971 carried out the 24th amendment with a view to asserting the right of the parliament to amend any part of the constitution, right? And second case, Vanand Bharati case, 1973. 1973 Keswanand Bharti case. Keswanand Bharti case. So in this, preamble was a part of the constitution and can be amended by the parliament under the article 368. Parliament can also amend the fundamental rights against Golaknath case, but ruled that the parliament cannot destroy the basic structure of the constitution. So this is important. Next thing, Minerva Mills case 1980. Minerva Mills case 1980, right? 1980. So the 42nd amendment carried out in 1976 asserted that the parliament had unlimited power to amend the constitution and try to accord precedence to directive principle over fundamental rights. But in the Mills case, the Supreme Court struck down those provisions. Right. Now next is Menka Gandhi versus Union of India. So in this, right to life is not merely confined to physical existence, but it includes within its ambit the right to live with human dignity. Right. So this is all about Menka Gandhi versus Union of India case. Right. Next is Justice K.S. Puttaswamy, that is retired. That is K.S. Puttaswamy versus Union of India. So Supreme Court of India hold that the right to privacy is protected as a fundamental constitutional right. So this is all about K.S. Puttaswamy, Union of India versus Union of India. Right. Now let's discuss some special features of the Indian Constitution. So the Constitution of India is the lengthiest and the most comprehensive of the written Constitution of India. Written Constitution of India, right? Now the Constitution contains detailed provisions relating to the center-state relation, including the emergency provisions. A special status has been given to Jammu and Kashmir and some other states such as Nagaland, Mizoram, and Assam, Gujarat, etc. So, under the Constitution, the people of India are the ultimate sovereign, right? The Constitution of India establishes a parliamentary form of government both at the center and the state, right? So the Constitution declares certain fundamental rights of the individuals, and it is unique features of the Indian Constitution that it makes the citizens due to a part of the duties, a part of the basic law of the land. Now the Indian Constitution, unlike other federal constitution, provides a single unified judiciary with Supreme Court at the apex, High Court in the middle, and the subordinate court at the bottom. And there are provisions in the Constitution to center independence of judiciary. So the most remarkable features of the Indian Constitution is being a federal constitution, and it acquires a unitary charge character during the time of emergency. So under the Indian Constitution, every adult above 18 years of age has been given a right to elect representatives for the legislature without prescribing any qualification based either on sex, property, education, or the like. Okay, so Indian Constitution provides for the establishment of secular states, and the state can neither discriminate against anyone on the ground of the religion, race, caste, nor can it compel anybody to pay tax for the support of any particular religion. So the Indian Constitution has a special reservation of seats for the scheduled caste and tribes in the public appointment and in educational institution and in the union and state legislatures, right? So an outstanding feature of Indian Constitution is Panchayati Raj. So it is important, most important, right? And the procedure for amendment of the Indian Constitution is partly flexible and partly rigid, and single citizens has been adopted in the Indian Constitution. So this is all about um, you know our constitution. So federal and unitary feature of the Indian constitution. So India is different from United States, okay, and United States of America, because United States, the federation is based on an agreement among different states, and the states have the right to secede from the union. Now federal features, so distribution of power between union and states has been made as per the three list, right? Three lists. So these three lists are the union government as well as the state government has to function strictly in accordance with the constitution, right? So Indian constitution is entirely written in amendment to it must be passed by the parliament, and if any amendment affects the federal structure it must be ratified by at least half of the state legislature, right? And it has an independent judiciary as essential feature. So unitary feature of Indian constitution, unitary feature of Indian constitution is 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 the Indian constitution provide every Indian with a single citizen, right? And the center can legislate on the subject in the concurrent list, and residuary power belong to the center residuary, and single citizens framework has been provided for the center as well as for the state. Now proclamation of national emergency can immediately turn the federal system of India into unitary one. Now in the Rajya Sabha in the India, states are represented on the basis of population. Besides, the president has the power to nominate 12 members to the Rajya Sabha. So the governor of the states are appointed by the president and they continue to hold office only during his pleasure. So the Indian constitution provide for a single judiciary, and the authority of the controller and auditor general and the chief elections commissioner uniformly prevails over the union as well as the state, right? So lapse of paramountcy. So what is meaning of lapse of paramountcy? Lapse of paramountcy, right? So lapse of paramountcy means when the Indian Independent Act 1947 was passed, it declared the lapse of suzerainty, parliament paramountcy of the crown in section 7 clause 1b of the act. So of the state situated within the geographical boundary of the dominion of states of India, all numbering 552 save Hyderabad, Kashmir, Bahal, Bahawalpur, Junagadh, and the NWF Northwest Frontier States, and Chitral, Fulara, Dir, Swat, and Amb had acceded to the dominion of India by the 15th August 1947. That is before the appointed day itself, right? So integration and merger of the Indian states. So integration and the merger of the Indian states. Okay, integration and merger of Indian state. Right. So the main objective of shaping the Indian states into the sizable or viable administrative units was sought to be achieved by threefold process of integration. That is, we say Patel schemes after Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, or we you can say minister in charge of home affairs. Okay, so 216 states were merged into respective provinces geographically continuous connected to them. Now these merged states are included in the territory of the states in part B in the first schedule of the Constitution. Now, 61 states were converted into centrally administered area and included in the Part C of the first schedule of the Constitution. Now, the third form of the integration was the consolidation of groups of states into new viable units known as the Union of States, right? So the process of integration culminated in the Constitution's 7th Amendment Act 1956, which abolished Part B states as the class and include all the states in Part A and B, right? So next move to the evolution of states and union territory. Evolution of state and union territory and UT, right? Evolution of states and union territory. So first thing I would like to discuss Dhar Commission. So according to Dhar Commission, the Constituent Assembly appointed the S.K. Dhar Commission in 1947 to study the issue of the reorganization of the states on linguistic basis. Okay, so the Dhar Commission categorically rejected the basis of linguistic formation of states. Now, JVP committee. So the Congress in its Jaipur session in 1948 appointed a three-member committee to consider the recommendation of Dhar Commission, and its members were Jawaharlal Nehru, Vallabhbhai Patel, and Pattabhi Sitaramaya. So the committee rejected language as the basis for the reorganization despite popular support for it, right? So Faisal Ali Commission, and after the creation of Andhra states demand for creation of states on linguistic basis intensified, and Faisal Ali Commission was constituted in December 1953, which was also known as the States Reorganization Commission. Now by the State Reorganization Act 1956 and the 7th Constitutional Amendment Act, the distinctions between states was abolished, and some of them were merged with the adjacent states and some other were designated as the Union Territory as the result of 14th states, and 6th Union Territory were created on November 1, 1956, and in October 1953 the government of India was forced to create the first linguistic states known as Andhra Pradesh by separating the Telugu speaking area from Madras state after the death of Sri Ramullu, a congressperson. So, right now let's move to the preamble of the Constitution. So, what do you mean by preamble? Right. So, preamble